Yeah, so I talked to Doc Fitzpatrick, and I said, "Well, any place you knew where I can get Indian grass?" He said, "Well, there's a company in Nebraska that he got his seed from." So I called him up, and yeah, they could fix me up with some Indian grass. So got some Indian grass. So I decided to seed down those government set aside acres I had to have every year to prairie, and then we'd have a place to hunt, me and Larry. And plus, there was an old cow pasture that bordered alongside that set aside acres, which was a cow pasture that we had no longer had cows on and just had Kentucky bluegrass in there. And early 80s, their glyphosate or Roundup was just coming out, and it was like $100 a gallon. And you put 2 quarts of that on per acre, and that was a lot of money, 50 bucks an acre to spend back then to kill out this bluegrass. But we done it anyway. And old Doc Fitzpatrick, he wanted to help me all the way through it, getting it planted. So got the grass, killed the pasture out, tilled up the pasture after I had killed it with Roundup, and then got it laying all nice and smooth, and took out an old fence in there and bordered the set aside acres and the pastures to kind of open it all up, and then got it laying nice. And nobody really told us how to plant prairie back then. But,
How'd you figure it out?
well, we made a lot of mistakes. And one of the mistakes was planting it. So we tilled the ground, had it laying like a nice garden, and we understood the fact that you had to pack it in. But oh yeah, by the way, Fitzpatrick knew where he can get an old Truex drill from the County Conservation Board here in Jasper County. And
so a drill in the '80s that had to be kind of a
it was kind of well,
kind
they
of a
had
unique thing
it
to
was
do,
kind of unique, but it was only like a 5 footer, and it took forever. And so me and old Fitzpatrick, I'd run the drill, and he'd follow me. He had this old Johnny Popper John Deere that he reconditioned, and he pulled the packer, and he followed me around. We went around and around the field, and finally got it all planted, and then and then I'm out there crawling around all the time looking for this prairie, and I can't find it.
oh no!
All I find is foxtail, and yellow foxtail in that cow pasture, and giant foxtail where the old set-aside acres were. And I said, "I don't know, Doc. I just can't find this grass." And my dad would go out there, and he said, "I don't know, son. I can't find the grass either that you planted." But so we made the mistake of getting it in too deep, and we finally come to the conclusion after a couple of years of nothing but foxtail.
How'd you figure out that it was too deep?
Well, that's the only thing we could figure it out. Got in too deep with the soft dirt, so we should have probably rolled it or packed it before we planted it.
Sure.
And the openers on the drills cut a groove, and then laid it in there. And they didn't have instructions on the bag either how to plant this stuff. And
Hoksey Native Seeds does, in case anyone we came out with instructions.
yeah, you best just throw it on top of the surface. But anyway, so I bought some more Indian grass, and we decided to do a dormant seeding in the winter over a little bit of snow when the ground was frozen.
Sure.
And reseeded the whole thing again, and then waited about a year or so, and we're probably getting into, I don't know, probably
Now we're talking the
1986 or 85 in there.
Now we're talking like cost per acre earlier with putting down the chemical spray to open up the cow pasture for
Right.
seed. Replanting, that probably wasn't cheap either.
That wasn't cheap either, and so went through that, but we done it on frozen ground, and that way, and then we start, after a year or two, after we done that dormant seeding, we start having a few plants show up here and there. And,
Sure.
and then old Doc Fitzpatrick says, "Well, Hoksey, you need to put a match to it and burn that off." So I said, "Okay." So we put a match to it one spring.
Were you kind of having second thoughts before you got to the point where you like,
No.
maybe I should go back to
Well,
corn beans?
No, he was committed. He was all the
Those
way in.
pheasants like that foxtail too. Me and Larry had a place to run that Brittany. That dog.
Okay, there you go. Yep. Brittany's are the best bird dogs, by the way.
Yeah.
That's what I like.
Sounds a little
myself.
biased, but yeah,
She was a good little dog. Anyway, and so once we started a fire to it, and me and Roscoe, Lyle Martin, he's on the local Linville Fire Department. Me and him went out there. Yeah, we'll burn that off. So we had a fire going across that foxtail, and it was burning pretty quick. And then this one area of the old cow pasture that had been overtaken over the years with native cedar trees, red cedars,
Yep.
quite.
A lot of those throughout.
And they were there when I sprayed the Roundup, but there were so many of them there, I didn't just went around and thought I left it, would leave it alone. A few evergreens would be nice, a little greenery.
Sure.
But the fire got in there and kind of licked them up. So we had like 60-foot high fire burning up the needles off that those evergreens, those cedar trees.
Popping wildly,
Yeah,
man.
Right.
So yeah, fire finally went out, and there we had a bunch of dead trees, no needles on them. So I went in there right after the fire a few days and decided I'd just cut them off flush with the ground, and
Sure.
and once I get some seed off of my other Indian grass, I would reseed that area where those cedar trees were. I wasn't ready to go out and buy more grass seed.
Yeah. Right.
So I did that, and lo and behold, that was the best thing that ever happened to Hoksey. Is that that very fall, I started having big blue stem and Indian grass and little blue showing up where them cedar trees had been.
Wow.
And it didn't come from seed; it come from actually the root system of those plants.
Wow.
That is crazy. That is
Those
so crazy.
roots, those plants, this is virgin ground, never been row cropped or anything. So this is original prairie that had always been there.
Sure.
Thanks for checking out the Prairie Farm Podcast. For more content like this, subscribe to our YouTube channel. And for full episodes, check us out on any major podcast streaming service.